Looking to connect with Jared Varnado. Jared Varnado is a small business owner out in Livingston Parish. It's a towing company. And all too often we get wrapped up in the world of, insurance battles and lawsuit abuse and, vilifying trial lawyers and the like. But what we don't do is hear the stories of those whose actual businesses are affected by that which goes on inside the state capitol. So we welcome him aboard right now. Jared Varnado, how are you, sir?
Good morning, Brian.
Good morning. Welcome aboard. I appreciate your patience with us getting connected right there. The backstory is the news break was a busy one, so we were a little bit late in connecting. But I appreciate you hopping on board this morning. We got a little bit to talk about here. I want to start with just your story, your business, and what got you involved in the conversation of lawsuit abuse.
So I am third generation family business in the towing industry. Grandfather started it in 1957. But I'm also the president of Louisiana Towing Recovery Professionals of Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
And so being involved in that, you get involved with the political side, and Ms. Renee at LMTA has kind of drugged me in and got me involved as much as possible. And so, the insurance impacts us as well. Towing is not usually on the spotlight. It's usually trucking industry because they're a larger industry, but we're here doing the same job, and we have the same struggles.
Let's talk about why. I mean, because when we think about the trucking industry, we're thinking about big trucks and fleets and whatnot. And when it comes down to it, a tow truck is a truck. It's a truck
with $1 million policy. And we have targets on us just like the trucking industry does. I've heard some horror stories through some members of our association that, a couple accidents and they've had to close their business because they couldn't afford the insurance anymore.
When you say $1 million policy, what does it take in your business to make that a profitable business?
That's a good question. At the rate that the insurance is going up, it's difficult to even fathom that. Just so happen our insurance renews this week. Out of 14 trucks, my insurance is over $400,000 a year, and I've got a clean record. There is some towing companies that have had some minor accidents and nothing major, but it happens. $50,000 to $70,000 per truck per year.
Jared Varnado from Varnado and Sons Towing is our guest. We're talking about lawsuit abuse, and oftentimes that conversation involves not just your service but the business you do. How does it have effect on the business end?
So on the business end, we try and keep our rates affordable for our customers. But there's also another side of it is, if somebody gets in a wreck and doesn't have a towing company they want to request, that's considered a non-consensual tow. Mm-hmm. And non-consensual towing is regulated by the Public Service Commission. So we don't get to raise our rates. They dictate what our rates should be and give us a raise if they see according. So it's and on the flip side of that, as an average over the state, companies have about a 65% retention rate of vehicles that get left to them to dispose of. And so, you try and factor in, I'm only getting paid 35% of the time, and our rates are lower than the neighboring state. It doesn't add up.
Okay, hang on, because you just said a whole lot right there. First of all, you said on a non-consensual tow, you are not allowed to dictate or have a say in what your rate is. That's up to the PSC, right? And then you came back around and said you're only able to collect 35% of the time, which means 65% of that business is left uncollected on the table. How does that affect your rates on consensual tows?
So they do not regulate our consensual tows,
right?
And so you run the numbers and figure out, okay, well, what it costs for insurance, what it costs for fuel, what it costs for the employees and the equipment. and you just have to factor in those numbers and figure out what's an affordable rate that your customer is willing to pay, and hope that you can make a profit on it.
So where I'm going with this, by the way, Jared Varnado is our guest. Where I'm going with this, Jared, is if not for the handcuffs on the non-consensual side, the consensual tow cost could come down considerably. So for folks like me, for just the general populace out there, when we're calling a tow truck, we're paying for that non-consensual end inadvertently.
Yes.
Ridiculous. Because when you look at a balance sheet, when you look at your budget, there's no way around that. That if you're going to stay in business, and by the way, for every towing company that goes out of business, the cost is only going to go up as well because the supply side is shrinking. So in order for you to stay in business, basically everybody out there ends up footing a little bit of the bill.
That's correct. And just to add to that, I ran some numbers. 2 years ago, there was 430 towing companies in the state of Louisiana. This year, there's going to be around 380. And most every one of them I've talked to closed due to insurance rates.
So what are you looking at the Capitol? What are you eyeing up at the Capitol? Is there, when it comes to it, is it just an overall push towards any bill that can help you out on the insurance front, or does it get a little bit more particular, a little bit more specific with what you're looking for?
I mean, really, it's I hate to say it, but it's the tort reform bills that are being pushed.
Mm-hmm.
We saw it last year. Ms. Renee at LMTA did an amazing job of getting a handful of bills and getting some of them passed, some of them didn't pass, and they're following up with it this year, and they're not giving up. And we do what we can to work alongside with her and try and get it out, get the information out, and inform people of, hey, this is a real problem. You get people that get in a simple minor accident and they see dollar signs and they want to go to the doctor and they go to these attorneys, and not all attorneys, but there are some bad actors that have their own doctors that they send them to and their own chiropractors, and they just run the bill up. One of them that I felt was a very important bill that got shut down last year was the clarity, or the where you would have to see what they actually paid the doctor to actually fix the problem. And,
medical transparency.
Medical transparency. That's what I was looking for.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, that was a big one.
I think that's a huge one.
Same, because if we could show that what is billed back to the insurance company is not exactly what was catered to in the hospital or the doctor's office, that disparity right there, insurance companies base their rates off of loss, rates off of projected loss. So if you could show that disparity, you could show that much less in projected loss. That should have a direct result on rate.
Absolutely.
Jared Varnado is our guest. We got him for another minute and a half before we got to get you out of here. And I appreciate you hopping on the hotline this morning. Your work with the towing and recovery professionals of Louisiana, how much interaction do you have with our neighbors in Mississippi, Arkansas, or Texas? And is it even close to comparable when you look at what they're dealing with versus what we're dealing with within the state?
So we have a direct contact with Texas, Arkansas, and Mississippi. Mississippi is becoming a regulated state, just like Louisiana. Their insurance, for years, was a fourth of our rate. Mm-hmm. But I did talk to somebody on the board earlier this week, and he said their rates are starting to increase drastically due to this same situation. Texas is a different ball game. And then Arkansas as well is regulated, but their insurance is substantially cheaper.
When it comes down to it, I mean, is it when it comes down to it, like, would you be allowed to operate in other states to make things easier, or is it just a matter of that's not a viable business option either?
No, so there was some companies that reached out and went to other states to get insurance like some of the trucking companies here, they open a sub office in in Mississippi or, in a neighboring state, and they operate in both states for the cheaper insurance. In Louisiana, in order to operate a tow truck, according to Louisiana law, you have to have the vehicle registered in the state of Louisiana. So we are pinned to the state, and we just have to deal with the high rates and hope that it gets better.
I see. Even the workaround is shut down to you.
Yes.
He is Jared Varnado. Man, I appreciate you hopping aboard this morning. Can we get you back on at the end of the session, kind of do a little post-mortem on the session, because I love tracking progress as it moves along. I know with personal car insurance, a lot of us saw relief last year, but when it comes to the professional end, when it comes to the fleets, when it comes to the trucks, y'all did not see nearly as much relief as the rest of us did. Can we get you back on when the session's over for a little follow-up?
Absolutely, Brian.
Good deal. Good deal. We'll follow up off air. In the meanwhile, I appreciate a couple minutes this morning. Thank you so much.